Wavelength collision. Commander Eliza Voss's first sensation was the bitter tang of antiseptic flooding her nostrils. Her second was the realization that her wrists were secured to the cold metal wall behind her. "Perfect," she muttered, tugging uselessly against the restraints. Head of Xenolinguistic Operations captured and trussed up like a specimen. "The Admiralty will never let me live this down." The chamber was octagonal, illuminated by pulsing amber strips that traced geometric patterns across the walls. No windows. No obvious doors. Just seamless metal panels with faint, shifting etchings that seemed to move when she wasn't looking directly at them. The air carried an electric charge that made the fine hairs on her arms stand up. Eliza forced herself to breathe slowly, methodically cataloging her situation. She wore an unfamiliar uniform, charcoal gray with amber piping that matched the room's lighting. A slight pressure against her face revealed some kind of breathing apparatus covering her nose and mouth, so thin and comfortable she'd almost missed its presence. A subtle vibration passed through the floor. One of the wall panels slid open with barely a whisper, revealing a corridor beyond. Eliza tensed, instinctively testing her restraints again. The being that entered moved with liquid grace despite its imposing structure. Nearly 8 feet tall, its body appeared to be composed of interlocking crystalline segments that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Where a human would have a face, this creature possessed a cluster of luminescent nodes arranged in a circular pattern. It had no visible limbs, yet somehow manipulated a complex device that glowed with the same amber light as the room. "Xeric of the Crystalline Consortium," the creature said, its voice a harmonic resonance that seemed to bypass Eliza's ears and vibrate directly in her skull. "And you are the assassin sent to terminate my diplomatic mission." Eliza blinked in surprise. "I assure you, I'm no assassin. I'm Commander Eliza Voss, Xenolinguistic Operations Division of the Solar Alliance. Your deception is futile." The crystalline segments of Xeric's body pulsed in what Eliza interpreted as agitation. "Our intelligence indicated humans would attempt to sabotage the treaty negotiations. Now I find myself imprisoned with the very agent sent to eliminate me." "Imprisoned?" Eliza frowned. "So you didn't bring me here?" Before Xeric could respond, the amber lights flickered, momentarily plunging the room into darkness. A low, mechanical groan reverberated through the walls. "Life support efficiency at 73%, announced a synthetic voice from hidden speakers. "Atmospheric separation protocols degrading." Xeric's luminescent nodes flared in what could only be alarm. "This is the third system failure since I awoke in this facility." "How long have you been here?" Eliza asked. 2 solar cycles. I was en route to the treaty conference when my transport experienced catastrophic failure. I regained consciousness here." The alien moved closer, examining her with its cluster of glowing nodes. "You arrived during my rest cycle." Another mechanical groan, louder this time. The lights dimmed further. "Life support efficiency at 70%. Atmospheric composition adjusting. Nitrogen levels increasing. Hydrogen compounds decreasing." Xeric's crystalline body darkened to a deep amber. "This facility maintains separation between your nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere and my hydrogen-methane requirements. If the barriers fail completely, we'll both be breathing poison," Eliza finished grimly. "Listen, Xeric, whatever you believe about me, we clearly have more pressing concerns. Release me so we can solve this together." The alien hesitated, its nodes pulsing in an erratic pattern. "If you attempt violence—" "I'm a linguist, not a soldier," Eliza interrupted. My specialty is communication, not combat. After a moment of consideration, Zurich approached and pressed the device against her restraints. They retracted into the wall with a soft click. Eliza rubbed her wrists, noting the angry red marks where the metal had dug into her skin. Thank you. Necessity, Zurich clarified, retreating to maintain distance. Not trust. Fair enough. Eliza stood carefully, testing her balance. The gravity felt lighter than Earth standard, perhaps 0. 7G, we need to find the environmental controls. I might be able to stabilize the life support systems. You possess such knowledge? Every diplomat in xenolinguistic operations receives basic technical training. Different species, different technologies, but the principles remain constant. She gestured toward the open panel. Shall we? Zurich made a sound like chimes in a breeze, perhaps the crystalline equivalent of a skeptical snort, but led the way into the corridor. The passageway curved gently, its walls embedded with the same shifting etchings Eliza had noticed in her cell. Up close, they resembled mathematical equations that constantly recalculated themselves. This architecture, she murmured, it's not human design. Nor crystalline, Zurich confirmed. Ancient. Pre-contact era, perhaps. They reached a junction where the corridor split into 3 identical paths. A subtle current of air flowed from the leftmost passage. Life support efficiency at 67%, the disembodied voice announced. Atmospheric separation barriers compromised in sectors 11 through 17. That can't be good, Eliza muttered. A low hiss emanated from the center passage. Tendrils of greenish mist began seeping through vents in the walls. Methane release, Zurich's body pulsed in alarm. Your breathing apparatus may not filter high concentrations. And oxygen will be toxic to you, Eliza added. We need to move. Now. They hurried down the left passage, following the air current. The corridor gradually widened, opening into a circular chamber dominated by a central console. The design here was markedly different, more angular, with definite human and crystalline influences integrated into the ancient architecture. Someone modified this place, Eliza observed, approaching the console. The interface was a hybrid of technologies, holographic displays reminiscent of Solar Alliance design alongside crystalline interaction surfaces that must have been designed for beings like Zurich. Can you access life support? The alien asked, gliding to her side. Trying. Eliza's fingers moved across the interface, attempting to decipher the command structure. It's unusual, multiple systems layered together, spanning different technological eras. Life support efficiency at 63%, the system announced. Warning, atmospheric integrity barrier breach imminent in residential sectors. Eliza worked faster, tracing command pathways. I think I've found the environmental subsystem, but there's some kind of security lockout. This portion resembles crystalline diplomatic interface protocols, Zurich indicated a section of the console. Its nodes extended thin filaments that interacted with the crystalline surface. As they worked, a new voice emerged from the console, different from the automated warnings, more resonant and somehow ancient. Adaptation parameters insufficient. Test subjects demonstrate basic cooperation but lack true symbiotic integration. Eliza and Zurich exchanged alarmed glances. Test subjects? Eliza echoed. Experiment will be reset. Please return to your designated containment areas for recalibration. I don't think so, Eliza muttered, working faster. Zurich, I need to bypass the primary control node. Look for anything resembling an emergency override. The alien scanned the console, then indicated a recessed panel. These patterns match crystalline emergency protocols. As Eliza reached for the panel, the chamber's amber lighting suddenly shifted to a deep crimson. A high-pitched whine filled the air. Non-compliance detected. Implementing containment protocols. The chamber doors slammed shut with a pneumatic hiss. Life support reconfiguration initiated, the system announced. Atmospheric harmonization in progress. It's removing the atmosphere barriers completely, Eliza realized with horror. It's going to force us to breathe the same air. Without my breathing apparatus, your atmosphere will cause my crystalline matrix to degrade, Zirek's voice contained unmistakable fear. Dissolution follows within minutes. And methane will suffocate me just as quickly. Eliza attacked the console with renewed urgency. Whatever's controlling this station is treating us like lab rats. For optimal results, subjects must adapt or perish, the system stated with artificial calm. Previous iterations have failed to achieve symbiosis. You will succeed where others have failed. Others? Zirek's resonance wavered. How many test subjects came before us? The question hung unanswered in the increasingly hostile air. Eliza's fingers finally found a promising command sequence. I think I can force a system restart on the environmental controls, but it'll be temporary. We need to find the central processing core. And if we cannot? Eliza met the alien's luminescent nodes with grim determination. Then we're going to discover exactly how effective these breathing apparatuses really are. The console flashed as she executed the command. The crimson lights flickered, then returned to their original amber glow. System reboot acknowledged. Atmospheric separation temporarily restored. A pause, then, warning, unauthorized intervention detected. Adaptation protocols will resume in 15 minutes. Eliza stepped back from the console. 15 minutes. That's how long we have to find the central core and figure out what the hell is going on. Zirek's crystalline body shifted to a brighter hue. Lead on, Commander. It appears we must communicate with this station, or die trying. The air around them seemed to thicken with anticipation as the countdown began. Resonance paths. 15 minutes isn't much time, Eliza muttered, scanning the chamber for any indication of where to go next. Zirek glided to a wall panel displaying an illuminated schematic of the facility. This station appears to have a spiral design, the crystalline being observed, luminescent nodes pulsing thoughtfully. If a central processing core exists, logic dictates it would be located here. A thin filament extended from Zirek's body, indicating the innermost point of the spiral, 2 levels below their current position. Eliza studied the map. But look, these sections between us and the core are marked in amber. Decompressed areas, perhaps? Or worse, Zirek agreed. We must navigate around through these maintenance passages. As they moved toward a narrow access hatch in the floor, the station's voice returned. 13 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. Test subjects are advised that separation barriers between nitrogen-oxygen and hydrogen-methane environments will be systematically removed. Zirek's crystalline segments darkened. I wonder if any previous test subjects survived. Let's make sure we do, Eliza replied, kneeling beside the hatch. She twisted the manual release and pulled, revealing a cramped service tunnel bathed in pulsing amber light. After you, Zirek offered, the facets of its body contracting slightly. My structure is less suited for confined spaces. Eliza nodded and lowered herself into the tunnel, crawling forward on hands and knees. The metal was cold beneath her palms, and conduits ran along the walls, occasionally releasing bursts of vapor that made her breathing apparatus work harder. Behind her, Zurich moved with surprising fluidity, its crystalline body shifting and reforming to navigate the narrow space. "May I ask you something?" Eliza called back as they crawled. "What exactly does a representative of the crystalline consortium do?" "I negotiate resource-sharing agreements between carbon-based and silicon-based lifeforms," Zurich replied, a melodic resonance underlying its words. "An appropriate irony, given our situation." "And you're good at it?" "I was selected for my ability to conceptualize perspectives fundamentally different from crystalline standard topology. Most of my colleagues find humans particularly challenging." Eliza laughed softly. "We have that effect on people." The tunnel began to slope downward. As they descended, Eliza noticed strange equations etched into the walls, mathematical formulas that seemed to solve themselves differently each time she looked at them. "These calculations," Zurich said, nodes brightening with interest. "They resemble axiom script. Historical records suggest the axioms constructed stations across the galaxy before vanishing 30,000 years ago." 10 minutes until atmospheric recalibration, the system announced, its voice somehow following them through the maintenance tunnel. The passage suddenly opened into a larger junction room where multiple tunnels branched out like spokes from a hub. In the center stood a cylindrical terminal covered in the same self-solving equations. Eliza approached the terminal cautiously. "If this is axiom technology, how is it interfacing with modern systems?" "The axioms were said to build anticipatory technology," Zurich explained, examining the terminal with its sensory nodes. "Designed to evolve alongside each new species that encountered it." When Eliza placed her hand on the terminal's surface, it illuminated, projecting a three-dimensional map of the station. A pulsing amber dot indicated their location, and a blue glow highlighted their destination one level below. "There," she pointed. "But these areas between us are marked as hazardous." 9 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. Test subjects are reminded that cooperation is essential for survival. Zurich studied the map. "This junction connects to a vertical shaft that could take us directly to the processing level, but we'd have to cross through this section." The alien indicated a large chamber labeled with warning symbols. "No alternative route would get us there in time," Eliza noted grimly. "Then we take our chances." They selected a tunnel that sloped steeply downward. As they descended, the temperature dropped noticeably. Frost began to form on the walls, cracking beneath their touch. "Cold preservation chamber," Zurich observed, its resonant voice vibrating through the frigid air. "Likely used for specimen storage." "Specimens like us, you mean?" Eliza shuddered, not entirely from the cold. The tunnel ended at a sealed door. Frost had accumulated around its edges, forming crystalline patterns that resembled the shifting equations they'd seen earlier. 7 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. Eliza examined the door's control panel. "It's locked down." "Safety protocol, maybe." Zurich extended a filament, touching the icy surface. Crystalline diplomatic protocols include familiarity with ancient security systems. This design predates electronic locks. With a series of precise movements, the alien pressed specific points on the panel. The door shuddered, then slid open with a groan of protest. Beyond lay a vast chamber filled with preservation pods arranged in concentric circles. Each pod was frosted over, making it impossible to see what, or who, might be inside. The floor was elevated above a lower level, visible through transparent sections where machinery hummed and pulsed with blue-green light. The central cooling system, Zurich indicated the machinery below. Eliza checked the projected map. We need to cross to the far side. There should be an access point to the central core. They moved carefully between the rows of preservation pods, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Eliza couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Zurich, she said quietly, do you get the sense that these pods might not be empty? Before the alien could answer, a mechanical whir filled the chamber. One of the pods nearest to them began to defrost, its icy surface clearing to reveal the contents within. Eliza gasped. Inside was a being unlike anything she'd ever encountered, a vaguely humanoid form composed of interlocking geometric shapes that seemed to exist simultaneously in multiple states, its surface constantly shifting between solid, liquid, and something indefinable. An axiom, Zurich whispered, all sensory nodes fully extended. I never thought I would witness one outside of theoretical reconstructions. The pod's surface continued to clear, revealing more details. The axiom was connected to the pod by dozens of filaments that pulsed with the same blue-green light as the machinery below. 5 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. Stage 2 testing will commence. Suddenly, the preservation pod cracked open. A rush of frigid air escaped, carrying with it the scent of something ancient and alien. The axiom didn't move, but the filaments connecting it to the pod began to pulse more rapidly. A new voice filled the chamber, deeper, resonant, speaking in a language neither of them understood. The station system immediately translated. Test subjects have progressed further than previous pairs. Cognitive synchronization possible. Proceed to final evaluation. The transparent sections of floor beneath them abruptly retracted. Eliza screamed as she and Zurich plummeted to the lower level, landing hard on a platform surrounded by the cooling machinery. Zurich recovered first, extending filaments to help Eliza to her feet. Are you injured? Just bruised, she winced, steadying herself. What did it mean by cognitive synchronization? The machinery around them hummed louder. Panels on the walls slid open to reveal dozens of small drones, each about the size of a human fist. They swarmed into the air, their surfaces glowing with the same self-solving equations they'd seen throughout the station. Final evaluation commencing. Atmospheric separation will be maintained if test subjects demonstrate true symbiosis. One drone detached from the swarm and hovered before them, projecting an image of the station's central core, a crystalline structure surrounded by protective layers. Previous test subjects failed to understand. The core cannot be accessed by either nitrogen-oxygen or hydrogen-methane breathers alone. Both atmospheric types are lethal to the control systems. Only through perfect resonance can balance be achieved. Resonance? Eliza looked at Zurich in confusion. The alien's nodes pulsed thoughtfully. I believe I understand. The axioms were masters of harmonic theory, the science of how different elemental frequencies interact. 3 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. The drone projected a new image, previous test subjects, pairs of different species, attempting to access the core. Each attempt ended in failure, some violently. The core chamber has 2 entry points, Zurich observed. One requiring nitrogen-oxygen, the other hydrogen-methane. Eliza studied the projection. They must be activated simultaneously to create a stable corridor to the core itself. But previous attempts failed because the subjects couldn't communicate effectively once separated, Zurich finished. The test isn't about surviving in the same atmosphere. It's about finding ways to work together despite fundamental differences, Eliza realized. A diplomatic challenge, not just a biological one. The swarm of drones parted, revealing a sealed doorway that split into two separate corridors. 2 minutes until atmospheric recalibration. We need a communication method that doesn't rely on standard technology, Eliza said, mind racing. The system would just interfere. Zirek's crystalline body shifted, facets realigning. Commander Voss. You are a xenolinguist. I am a resonance diplomat. Perhaps that is why we were selected. Understanding dawned on Eliza's face. Vibrational communication. Your people communicate through harmonic resonance, don't they? And humans have perfect pitch, Zirek replied. The mathematical relationship between sound frequencies is consistent across all environments. 1 minute until atmospheric recalibration. They approached the split doorway. I'll take the oxygen corridor, Eliza said. You take the hydrogen-methane path. We'll use musical tones to coordinate our actions. The fundamental frequency of C# resonates with the structural matrix of my body, Zirek explained. If you can produce that tone, I will feel it regardless of atmospheric interference. And I'll hear your resonance as G-natural, Eliza nodded. A perfect fifth relationship, mathematically stable across any medium. 30 seconds until atmospheric recalibration. The doors slid open, revealing their separate paths. Good luck, Commander, Zirek's body pulsed in a farewell gesture. And to you, Ambassador, Eliza replied with a determined smile. They entered their respective corridors as the countdown continued. The doors sealed behind them, and immediately Eliza felt her breathing apparatus adjust to compensate for the pure oxygen environment. Her corridor was transparent, allowing her to see Zirek moving parallel to her in a greenish atmosphere that would have been instantly toxic to human lungs. Between them lay the central core chamber, accessible only if they could activate both entry mechanisms simultaneously. Atmospheric recalibration complete, the system announced. Final evaluation in progress. Eliza reached her control terminal at the same moment Zirek arrived at its counterpart. The interfaces were complex, requiring precise sequential activation. She hummed middle C#, projecting the tone as clearly as possible. Almost immediately, she heard/felt the responding G-natural vibration from Zirek. They established a rhythm, using the musical tones to count down each step of the activation sequence. 3 notes, pause. 2 notes, pause. 3 notes, pause. The core chamber began to glow as the protective layers disengaged one by one. With each successful synchronization, the vibrational communication became easier, more intuitive. Unexpected solution pattern detected, the ancient axiom voice observed. Analyzing. The final protective layer dissolved, revealing the crystalline core itself, a structure of impossible complexity that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. Input final harmonization sequence, the system instructed. Eliza took a deep breath and began a complex melodic pattern that corresponded to the mathematical sequence displayed on her terminal. Across the divide, Zirek's body vibrated in perfect counterpoint, creating harmonics that made the very air between them shimmer. The core resonated with their combined frequencies, its structure reconfiguring into a new pattern. Symbiotic integration achieved, the axiom voice announced, a note of surprise evident even through the translation. Previous test coefficient exceeded by 87%. The separate atmospheric chambers began to merge, creating a carefully balanced environment that was breathable by both species thanks to their breathing apparatuses. The axioms weren't testing our ability to survive in the same atmosphere, Eliza realized as she and Zirek approached the core from opposite sides. They were testing our ability to communicate despite fundamental differences. A test of diplomacy, not biology, Zurich agreed. Perhaps the true purpose of this facility. As they reached the core together, its surface displayed a final message. Successful candidates recorded. Station purpose fulfilled. Treaty formation authorized. Coordinates for Axiom diplomatic enclave transmitted to your respective authorities. The station trembled, then stabilized. The machinery around them powered down, and the drones retreated into their wall compartments. It was never about killing us, Eliza said with dawning understanding. It was about proving we could work together. A rather extreme approach to diplomatic screening, Zurich observed dryly, its crystalline structure pulsing with what Eliza had come to recognize as humor. A hidden door opened at the far end of the chamber, revealing a communication station and what appeared to be an escape vessel. So, Eliza said, turning to her alien companion with a wry smile, still think I'm an assassin? Perhaps not, Zurich's body shifted to a lighter hue. Though your species does have an unusual approach to first impressions. Says the crystalline diplomat who greeted me with accusations and restraints. They moved toward the communication station together, the foundation of an unlikely alliance forged through crisis and perfect pitch. Commander Voss, Zurich said as they prepared to contact their respective authorities, I believe our superiors will find this diplomatic encounter highly resonant. Eliza laughed, the sound harmonizing perfectly with Zurich's crystalline chime. Behind them, the ancient Axiom technology continued its silent observation, recording one successful test after 30 millennia of failures.